I love live performance, and I've spent a lot of time in the last couple years thinking about what it is that I love about live performance. And what it comes down to is that I really love seeing people make choices and taking risks on stage. I think there's something very powerful about that. And that's sort of what I'm trying to empower in my own music, is the ability for someone to make a choice on stage, for someone to take a risk, to have a definite idea about the interpretation of a piece. And so if there's any way where I can get someone to do something slightly risky or slightly spontaneous within the framework of a piece, I will always go for that, because that to me is interesting. For a long time, I actually was starting to feel like I had this real tension with writing orchestra music, like maybe it really wasn't for me, in part because I do like this kind of more spontaneous or more visceral and kind of maybe even sloppy sort of music making. And I also really value collaborative kind of environments where you get to try things out and you get to really bring out people's personalities and figure out how to make work in that way. And orchestra music is just sometimes so uncollaborative. It can be kind of a downer sometimes. But I finally figured out that what I love about orchestra music is that it's really all about notation. And it's about communicating ideas as clearly as you possibly can on the written page. And so when it's a little bit like when I want them to be sloppy, I have to somehow communicate in the music that here's the time to be sloppy, or here's the time to let go, or this is what matters now. And you know, orchestra musicians are incredible at grasping the context of what they're supposed to do, and they're very fast at assimilating things and knowing how to fit together. And they fall apart a little bit when you ask them to not fit together, which is sort of a lot of what I do sometimes. And so how to, within the context of the notation, get them to feel the freedom to do that is something that I think about a lot. Play also for me has this reference to video games, and I'm not a huge gamer. I know this is like it's a whole thing, and I mean beyond playing Super Mario Brothers when I was like 10. But there is something about the way games are structured and the way narratives are structured in a game, which is very appealing to me as I think about form in music, and the idea that things can sort of circle back and try things again, and oftentimes there's like a non-linear way through a game, and how to convey a story arc or a general narrative over a span of time, but one that can loop back on itself, one that can take a circuitous route through the material. So this is something I've been thinking about in a lot of pieces. I will have a mess of sketches on the floor. I have a mess of material. I have until like the very last second, like right before the piece is due. And then all of a sudden it goes whoop, and it like becomes a piece in like a day or two. And I'm like, how did that happen? And then of course I'll go back and revise it all later. But really, I sit there with this material in this like nonlinear web for a really long time. And then one day something magical happens that I don't fully understand, and it starts to fall into place. And those days are so rare for me, but I kind of live for them because it's just like, oh, finally, this piece is making sense.